All right, we are going to go over the 5 ways you can find off-market properties in Austin, Texas. Join us in just a second and we will get to it. Welcome to Behind the Scenes with Spyglass Realty with Ryan Rodenbeck and Matt Edwards. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So, this is pretty exciting when you talk about finding a property in Austin and we talk about affordability and, there's a problem is that we have not had a lot of inventory in the Austin market. And what people don't realize is that you can find properties off market if you're working with the right people and you know where to look. So that's what we're going to cover. 5 ways to find off market properties in Austin.
Now, just for those who are like, well, what is off market? So on market is when a property goes to the MLS and goes the more traditional route. And off market is cash deals that are done that never hit the MLS. They never get a for sale sign in the yard per se. That's an off market deal. And there's companies and there's people that specialize in finding these properties, and then they blast them out to try to sell them mainly to cash investors or somebody who's pre-qualified, has their ducks in a row, and can close the transaction.
Absolutely.
And it's actually, what is it? Is it 40% of real estate transactions are off market? I've read the stats, but I forget. It was a lot higher than I thought it was.
Yeah, I don't remember it being that high, but
it may have been 20%. It's been a while since I read it.
That might be luxury, okay? Which we're going to cover that in a second. So the first way to find an off-market property, and sometimes when I say off-market property, I mean a property that's actually coming soon, right? And you don't always get a property, find out about a property, put a contract in, and take it before it actually hits the market. But in this first way, one thing that you can have an advantage is you'd be the first person to know about it. And then that's by having an agent that can source properties through Facebook only groups where people put either coming soon or pocket listings, right?
Speaking of that, if you're looking for a home in South Austin, I got 3 listings all coming up that are technically off market right now. That if you want to get ahead of the curve, they're all 3-bed, 2 baths, fully remodeled homes. Fantastic.
Yeah. So if you're interested and by the way, we source these properties all the time. We have an internal group that on our workplace that we post these properties that we find when they're off market. So again, number 1, Facebook only groups. Agents, almost, all agents that do business, including myself, will post a property coming soon before it hits the market in agent only groups. So you got to make sure you're working with an agent that is really, following these Facebook groups, putting their info out that they're looking, they have a buyer need in this certain area. I can tell you we find about a handful of these properties just in that one source every year.
That's on a few months ago.
Yeah. One of our agents did 2 last year. Just one agent did 2 last year off market. One of them never even hit the MLS, which I don't really think is good for the seller. But when you're working for the buyer, it's a whole different story, right? You're curious to whoever you're representing. Number 2, direct mail. Okay. So I have a client that's looking in Cedar Creek Elementary School District in 78746, right? And we've not been able to find anything on market. So we're doing 2 techniques. One of them is direct mail, and the other one we'll cover in just a second because we're doing that as well. But what we do is we pull the tax rolls from MLS. We import the addresses, and we mail out to any property that's been with a deed date of like 3 years or earlier. Okay. We've had tremendous success with this. I have personally bought 3 duplexes using this method myself. Okay. And I find if you have the right agent that's using the right tools, then this can be a useful tool. Now, look, I want to tell you one thing. All 5 of these, if you've taken, if you're only doing one of them, your chances of finding a property off market are very low. But if you're working with us or you're working with another agent that's using all 5 of these can be very good techniques to find off market properties. Number 3, Facebook advertising. So I said I was working with these clients that were looking in Cedar Creek. We're doing a multi-pronged effect. We're doing all of these, but the two that we're really hitting the most is that we're doing the direct mail and then Facebook marketing. The way I do this is I geotag an area, like in this case, the Cedar Creek Elementary School, and I put a blog on my page that says, you know, looking for a property in your school district, and you have been identified as someone who is living in this property. You want to say something, Matt?
Yeah, so I got a question on that. So you get all that set up. Now, do you keep it fairly generic and kind of run them through a funnel, or do you take it a next step and actually post like a picture and some highlights of the family that's looking for that home in Cedar Creek area? So when somebody comes through, oh, it's an actual family,
yeah,
you know, instead of somebody just, you know, trying to.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I did that in the letter. I haven't done that in the Facebook advertising, but I might do that. It might be a good technique. But what we did is we identified, I asked my clients what their criteria was. They said between 1,700 and I think 2,600 square feet, okay, with a lot that's like 0.22 or bigger, okay. We don't know the beds and baths off the tax rolls, so we're not putting that out there. And, you know, their price range is between 600 and just over $1 million. The 600 is, you know, nearly tear down, right? And they'll want just over $1 million, and that's the top of their range. They want that to be completely turnkey. And we tell the buyers, or tell the sellers rather, that we have buyers that are ready and interested to go and can make an offer right away. If you are interested in selling your home, to give us a call. We also tell them, look, we're not trying to do any games here. Our goal is to find a buyer or find a seller that wants to sell property to our buyer. So if we write in the letter and on the Facebook post and in the blog post that if you're about to work with an agent, no problem. Have your agent call us. We love working with agents. We just want to help our buyer find a home. Okay.
And believe it or not, there's quite a few people that, you know, would take a little bit less money not to have to jump through the hurdles of going on the market, being like, oh, I got to get out of the house because somebody wants to come see it. They got dogs, they got kids, they got lives, and that stuff. Especially if it's in a hot, you know, hot neighborhood and a hot price point,
yeah,
that can be like demanding on their time. And if they've got an offer, you know, from somebody who's already looking in that neighborhood and it's right and it works for them. Yeah, they may leave some money on the table, but they're not being inconvenienced.
Yeah, and they may not, right? If they're not working with an agent, we're not trying to get, you know, double side of the commission. We just want to help our buyer. And then there's also people that are like, you know, the first group we did was we targeted people that had a exemption for over 65, right? Age exemption, right? So we found 600 addresses. We targeted the first 120 were ones that had the age exemption, right? These are people that, you know, they may be going into either a retirement community or moving closer to their children so that they can, you know, have a little bit more support. So Kelly, do me a favor. Let's bring in Rene, and we're going to go to number 4. Hey, Rene. So I want to introduce Rene Flores. He is one of our agents with Spyglass Realty. Rene has been an agent for at least a couple of years now and been with us for a few months. And Rene's background is a wholesaler. So Rene, why don't you do me a favor and tell me what your background is when wholesaling and how you can, well, we're going to talk about it in the sense of people that aren't investors and investors. Like tell us about the wholesaling process.
Hey, so thank you for having me on the show, you guys. So when I started into real estate, it was about 3 years ago, and I was a wholesaler for a company here in Austin for 2 years. And during that time, I got to learn how, you know, what a wholesaler does, and what that is to find property and to get in contact with homeowners who are, you know, okay, as Matt said earlier, who are okay with, you know, getting out of their house at a discount. And a lot of the times these wholesalers are working for investors. And so what they do is they build a relationship with the homeowner and try to get these these properties under contract, and once they have them under contract, they'll go ahead and either they'll flip that contract over to the buyer, which is the investor, and or if they have the funds, they'll go ahead and do a double close. And what they'll do is they'll close on the front side of that the contract, and they'll go ahead and sell the house to the investor. So those are one of the two ways that the wholesaler makes I guess it's not commission, but it's when he flips that contract is how he makes his money.
And the wholesale company, they probably only do that when they can make more of a spread versus just the assignment fee, right?
Well, let me back up just a little bit for kind of the layman that are watching this that's not done any investment property. So what Rene means is basically that what a wholesaler will do is they will get a property under contract, and they put in the contract whatever their name is and or assigns. So once they get under contract, they immediately, if they're not working with one particular investor, they immediately try to push this out to a multiple agent saying, hey, we've got this property, it's under market by X amount, and do you want to buy it? They set up a simultaneous close. So what happens is when they close on that property, they do on a simultaneous close, there's a spread. So in other words, make it simple, wholesaler buys a property that, let's say it's worth, $250,000. They may get this property under contract for $230,000. Then they're gonna resell the contract at $235,000. That's a typical scenario. Wouldn't you agree, Rene?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Exactly. So the buyer is going to pay $5,000 more than the wholesaler paid for it. But who cares? You're trying to find a property, right? Now, what I think is going to be this isn't going to be for everyone, because most of these properties have issues. What are the kind of issues you see with these properties?
So a lot of these properties, they're going to have foundation issues. They're going to need a new roof. Basically, your major mechanicals, a new AC, new roof, foundation, electrical. But there is some diamond in the roughs, I like to call them, where if you are a homeowner who want to, go ahead and live in the house, and you're not per se an investor. And again, how as Matt mentioned, if you have your ducks in a row, you can get into these houses and you can actually act as a wedge, because an investor needs to purchase that house at a, he has his own formula, and you, the homeowner, you're not really looking to get the profit, immediately. So you can act as a wedge and pay more than that investor. So I think it's a great way if you're gonna, want to go that route. Obviously the house is not going to be a total redo. It's going to, maybe have some cosmetics, carpet, paint, flooring, and stuff like that. But again, it all depends on the house. A lot of the times I did see, probably about 75% foundation issues, and then you have your roof, paint, carpet, flooring, and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, and just in most cases, if you're going to, this is one of the methods you're going to employ, or one of your agents are going to employ, you need to know a couple of things. The wholesale price in most cases does not include the commission. Okay. So if the property is, $300,000, then you're going to have to write a contract for $309 if you're working with a real estate agent, right? I have bought wholesale properties. I've helped some of my buyers buy wholesale properties. And so that's thing one. Thing two is it in 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, you're going to need to have a budget to be able to renovate this property. Okay. Not all of them have foundation problems, I've found, but at the very least, you're going to probably have cosmetic issues. But like I said, I mean, if you're looking for a property in Austin and you've got a budget for some repairs, or you can do a FHA 203K, I think it is, where you can have a renovation loan. The other thing you can do, and it's been pretty prevalent, is that if you've got a family member that's willing to, if you don't have this kind of money, is that you can have a family member that's willing to front the money to do a cash purchase. You can buy the home, you can renovate it, buy it cash, renovate it, do what's called a delayed finance, and then within 6 months you're able to refinance the property up to 75% LTV. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the investment aspect of it. So we work with a lot of investors, and what I have found in most cases is that a lot of them say that these are flips, but usually when I've looked into them, I found that there's not enough spread for like what I would call a professional flipper, right? If you're amateur flipper and you're okay with making a little bit of money, that's okay. But there is a lot of opportunity for investors to buy properties that are buy and hold, that you walk into a property with some equity, which is always the goal when you want to do a buy and hold.
Right. And Rene, you may know this, like to dive a little deeper on Ryan's point there. Most flippers look at purchasing at 70% ARV, which is after repair value. And most of these homes that come from wholesalers are always coming into the market at 80% ARV, which leaves very little room for the remodel, unknowns, contingencies, things like that. Whereas, if you're coming in at 80% and doing a long-term buy and hold rental, you're not putting nearly as much money in on the remodel. You're having some equity there, and it's a great buy for that. Am I right, wrong?
No, yeah, exactly right. A lot of the professional flippers, they're looking at 70% minus your repairs. As you mentioned, a lot of wholesalers, they get a pretty bad rap just because they are coming in at 80% and they're trying to market or flip that to investors as a flip. And as you mentioned, there's just there's not enough room there because you do have your holding costs and you have uninspected repairs that do come up. So a lot of these deals, you can, if you want to buy and hold, they're great, especially a lot of the cosmetic ones, a great opportunity to, for sure have a wholesaler on your team, along with your real estate agent. And if you want to go ahead and live in the property and you have your ducks in a row, you can go ahead and definitely, I prefer, actually my wife and I are looking for our next home, and we're thinking about getting one that's more of a fixer-upper, cosmetically, and to get it, below market. But you're right, Matt. A lot of the times the wholesalers, they are typically coming. I've seen a couple of wholesalers at 75% minus your repairs, but a lot of them are hitting the 80%.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I want to get to the last method for buying off-market properties, and this is for luxury home buyers. And I found this a very good method to help, find a property that's off market. And I think the stat that you were probably referencing earlier, Matt, is that luxury homes, I would say it could be 30 to 40% of them don't even make into the MLS. And so there's a group, I'm a part of it. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to say it, so I'm not going to mention the name, but there's a group in Austin that I'm a part of where it's a luxury group that the luxury agents basically will post their listings onto this site, and it gets distributed to all the other luxury agents that are in this group. They do an open house once a month for all the agents to come through. Now, what you need to know about this is if you're looking for a home, especially a luxury home, every home in there has to be over $1 million, okay? But you'll see that some of these homes that don't actually sell in there, when they go back and hit the market, they go at a reduced price. So you're going to pay a premium for a luxury home on this site, okay? And that's okay if you're not money conscious and you want a really good home, because these are luxury homes that have their turnkey. You don't have to put anything into them, most of them, right? And this is an opportunity that you probably wouldn't have. If it's a great home, it will not make it to MLS. And this is why that stat is so high. If this is a great home and it's put on this network, it cannot be seen by anyone except for the agents that pay to be in this network. Okay. And I don't think that when I say pay to be in this network, I don't even think they make any money off it. It's such a low fee. It just, helps them operate with stuff. Right. So, if you're interested in buying a luxury home, the very first place I would start would be making sure that your agent has access to luxury networks, right? And if your agent doesn't have access to that, you may want to think about hiring one that does, because primo properties start at this network. And then the ones that don't sell on this network, not all of them, but most of them actually start on this network. And if they don't sell for a certain reason, they go on to MLS at a reduced price. I can tell you, we sold about 3 homes last year through this. One of them never made it to MLS. We put it on the luxury network. We had several people that were interested in it. And also, when I tell my sellers to put it on this luxury network, this is the place you put it at where you want to test the market, okay? You want to see if you can get just a little bit more than you would on MLS. It's a good way to gauge whether your MLS price is going to be responded to or not, right? So, yeah, so there's 5 different ways that we have identified for our home buyers and our clients to find properties off market. And I think if you employ all of those 5 ways, even if you're under $1 million, you have the 4 great ways. I think if you're working with an agent that employs all 4 of these methods, you got a leg up from the competition, because I can tell you that most of them don't even know 1 or 2 of them, okay? So this is a big deal, and this is why you hire a professional. This is why you don't hire an agent that's salaried, okay? So look, all right, we've got a great broadcast next week. For those of you who are interested in social media marketing, I am going to be interviewing a Instagram whiz, okay? So you're gonna see us next week. If you like what you saw today, put a like on Facebook, put a like on YouTube, and subscribe on Facebook by typing the word agent. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then hit the subscribe button. Rene, thank you so much for joining us and giving us this insight. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, we will see you guys later.
Till next week.